Okay, very
We look
good.
forward to having her on the force, very much so.
Okay, welcome.
Welcome.
You want to talk to council? You good? Okay. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Police Department reappointment.
So I have a reappointment of an officer for a one-year term. That would be Officer Dave Burke. He is a school resource officer and has been for going on 3 years. Before that, he was a road officer. Dave is very unique in what he does. He handles all of the grade schools. He comes up with all kinds of programs for the children. Started the homeschool DARE classes. He deals a lot with the special needs and coming up with ideas to do events and things for them. He does our Facebook page and does a lot of work in trying to reach the children in different ways, besides being in the schools and handling any situations they have there. He does great work, and I would request that you reappoint him.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Hydrich, to approve the reappointment of Patrol Officer David Burke. This is for a one-year term,
Yes.
as always. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the reappointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Chief, how many schools does he cover?
Marthasville, Augusta, Washington West. He will cover South Point. He covers on an as-needs basis Clearview, and then Campbellton. So that's where he's going all the time. And then he does some work with the private schools, Borgia and Lourdes. So.
Chief, how are we doing on officers right now? We caught up?
We're one short yet, just one. And we're in the process of taking applications. I've gotten 3 applicants so far. Now's the time of the year that 2 academies are graduating, so we're hoping to get some candidates out of those. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
Franklin County Transportation Committee appointment.
Okay, this evening in your packet is a request to appoint Darren Lamb, City Administrator, as our, I guess, what would that be, our backup for
Yeah, it's essentially what it
highway?
is. Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
What's that? Yes, sorry.
You
Mayor.
want
The Franklin County Transportation Committee voted to revise their bylaws at the last meeting to include an alternate. Currently, I serve as the primary, but if I'm able to not attend for whatever reason, we would not have a voting member. So we voted to allow that to where we could appoint an alternate to actually vote at that meeting if the primary attendance wasn't there. So Darren seems to be the obvious choice. And if you do approve this, it does go to the Franklin County Commission for final approval. So, pretty
Okay.
straightforward.
Any questions or comments?
Do you have time for all this?
John's got it covered most of the time, we just don't want to miss a vote. Make sure
Bingo.
the commission understands what Washington needs.
I make a motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Obermark, to approve the appointment of Darren Lamb as the alternate to the Franklin County Transportation Committee, as our alternate. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? By your vote, you approve the appointment. Thank you.
Citizens' comments.
Is there anyone here tonight who would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda? Okay.
Report of department heads. John, do you have anything?
I do not.
Anyone else? Nelson, do you have anything?
Wayne? Evan?
I don't think Wayne does. Okay.
Ordinance resolutions. An ordinance accepting the bid from Joe Matchins Ford Lincoln, Columbia, Missouri, and to approve the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-450 regular cab and chassis, 4-wheel drive with custom bed by the city of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmar.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
this evening. Tony had the day off today, so I'm going to cover this for him. But in your packet, I think he had a letter here for you that just describes the truck that we're replacing. It's 1996 Chevy 3/4-ton truck. It's primarily used as our sign truck. It has all the sign racks and the poles and that things on the vehicle. We are looking to replace it with a new 2022 Ford F-450, $55,955. It was purchased, or it is being proposed to be purchased for the state contract. There was a budget amount of $70,000, so it did come in under budget. The sign truck components, the bed, those type of things are being installed by Haslag Steel. We also did receive or we tried to get a bid from Napa Truck Center, but they chose not to. So it's a package deal, and as far as when we receive that, I'd have to check with Tony on that. But our current truck is operational. We just are looking to update the fleet.
Okay, any questions or comments?
So the custom bed again is what, John?
It's the actual components on it. It's like it's racks and things that go in the bed. I don't think it's necessarily a custom bed. It's just internal racks and things for the posts and the signs. And maybe one way to describe it, like if you see the glass trucks that are around town for windshields and glasses, it's something similar to that. It's just a organizational type thing.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
And I got to ask, I guess this is a state bid, but we did try local, correct?
We did reach, I think try to think here, did we reach out to, I'd have to check on that.
I don't, like I said at the last
At the
meeting
state-
where we discussed bidding procedures, this is straight out of your purchase policy manual. Go ahead and use state bid. So, don't have to.
So we don't check with local vendors, see if they'll match it?
We didn't have to. No.
We reviewed that last month, but we didn't enact anything.
No, it was just that, last week was, our last meeting was just an informational thing. If you wanted to modify your purchasing policy manual at a later date, you could do that.
Anyone else? Okay.
An ordinance accepting the bid from Joe Matchins Ford Lincoln, Columbia, Missouri, and to approve the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-450 regular cabin chassis, four-wheel drive with custom bed by the city of Washington, Missouri. Wessels,
Aye.
Hydrich,
Aye.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Solentra,
Yes.
Pettit. Aye. Scornia,
Yes.
Overmark,
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the city of Washington, Missouri to accept the bid from NOC LLC for the purchase of new cameras to expand its network camera system.
Scornia.
Introduced by Councilman Scornia.
Good evening, council. Included in your packet is an ordinance for the purchase of 42 cameras. Wayne and I combined our bids and I did one bid package because he needed some for the pool and the parks. What are you going to call that out there? The parks? No.
All abilities.
No.
Which one?
Anyway, the park, or the pool itself and then the building itself.
The
So between the
concession.
two of those, it's going to be approximately 28 cameras, I believe. And then we also ordered for All Abilities Park, Miller Post, and then also a few extra cameras. And already we've had a request for some at the airport. So John is going to look into that and check FAA regulations to make sure we can do that. So this should complete majority of the cameras in the city. We have, I think, if I remember right, there's over 100 already installed. So this should complete the rest of the project.
Do we install these ourselves?
Actually, NOC included installation in their bid package, so they'll be installing them
We
at
have-
no additional cost.
Yes.
Any questions of Mary?
Pool house, that's what it is.
Pool house.
Pool house.
There you go. Swimming pool, pool house, connected. Okay. No
Thank you.
questions? Thank you, Mary.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington, Missouri to accept the bid from NOC LLC for the purchase of new cameras to expand its network camera system. Wessels?
Aye.
Hdrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Solentrop?
Yes.
Pettit? Scornia?
Yes.
Overmark?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington, Missouri to enter into a sales contract with Poly Systems, Inc. for the waterline extension to Meadow Lake Farms subdivision.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
Good evening, everyone. What this is this will be the pipe that will take us from the south side of Highway 100 along Pottery Road and tie into the entrance to Meadow Lake Farms, which will finalize that project to get a water to Meadow Lake Farms. As you can see, I went out for 3 bids. Poly Systems is out of Owensville, and the reason why that one is lower than all the rest of them is because we're using in-house talent. We're going to train, I'm going to have 4 of my guys trained to use the Fusion machine, and we will be renting the Fusion machine from them, and I'm saving about $2,300 doing that. So, plus our guys will be trained so we can use it in future times. So,
Are we underneath the highway yet?
no, we will be with this project. We will get underneath the highway. We've been kind of waiting for.
Oh, is it born separate from the?
Yes, yes,
Real quick, the sleeve is under the highway, the
That's
pipe
what I
is not,
meant.
yeah.
yeah. Sleeves under the water line's not yet. That's all the pipe that's still sitting alongside up there on the hillside. Yeah.
Kevin, is this, was this budgeted through your own budget, or is this coming out of the capital improvement? What is it?
No, this is out of the water budget.
We received, I believe it was $50,000 from Meadow Lake on the annexation agreement. So there were dollars budget for that, through that agreement. Now, that did not obviously take care of the boring and all those other things, but we anticipated that when Meadow Lake was petitioning us to come in.
The boring was about 50 grand, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, correct, yeah.
Will this bring their fire hydrant stuff up to code with this extension?
No, there will need to do some fire hydrant work as far as, elevate them. A couple of them are a little bit low and those things. But the water lines within the subdivision were put in per city spec back at that time. I think what you're referring to is prior to the annexation discussion in 2013, the water district could not supply them with water. The piping within the subdivision was up to city code, but they couldn't supply them with them. They did a water line improvement project, I don't know, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, that took care of that situation. This will just just basically keep the same thing. And this is on our fire pump, so they should have fire protection.
Yes.
There does need to be some work though, which we'll be working on that, getting, painting the hydrants and those type of things.
Yeah,
It's all taken care of.
This is
Yeah.
10 years so back.
Pretty straightforward.
So
10 years so back, the pressure wasn't there.
Yeah.
it's up to fire department standards.
It is today, and it will be when we're completed. What you guys are referring to, I believe, is prior to when annexation discussion was going on, they did not have the supply lines from Croco to Meadow Lake. They since have upsized those to solve that issue,
Okay.
give them what they had before, basically. I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions or comments?
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington, Missouri to enter into a sales contract with Poly Systems, Inc. for the waterline extension to Meadow Lake Farms subdivision. Wessels?
Aye.
Hdrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Solentrop? Pettit? Scornia?
Yes.
Overmark?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a license agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission.
Solentrop.
Introduced by Councilman Solentrop.
So this is, we're one step closer for the Bush Creek Greenway. License agreement had to be executed, or has to be executed with MoDOT to allow the trail to be placed in the Highway 47 right-of-way. If you recall, the original trail alignment had the trail going on street, I can't think of the street name.
Eighth over to.
Yeah, correct. Since then, we have realigned that to allow it to go around the Toa slope along 47. It does keep it off-street. There was some property owner concerns, I think, with the trail being on-street in front of their homes. This would actually utilize MoDOT right-of-way, so there has to be a license agreement. We would then be responsible for maintenance, just like we anticipated, of the trail and those type of things, so MoDOT does not pay for any of those things in the future.
So how close are we going out to bid on this?
It's a very good question. We're working with MoDOT on trying to get those schedules, figured out. MoDOT is having some delays on getting their projects programmed and out the door. So your guess is a little bit as good as mine, but we're hoping sometime summer, late summer is most likely what it's been. It's been pushed back multiple times with some back and forth with MoDOT. And we're trying to get just a better line of communication with them at this time. So,
Don, that'll be a paved trail?
yeah, it's a concrete trail. Yep.
And
It,
show some landscaping, when we grade that, are we gonna have to do landscaping on some of those, or is that just
I don't think there's landscaping per se.
like, I just lost my picture. It just looks like it on the image, there's some shrubbery, it looks like.
Yeah, no, we're not anticipating doing any major lands. I mean, as far as more than seeding and strawing and, potentially maybe some sod work, that type of thing.
Thank you.
If you remember, it's a 10-foot shared use path from Jefferson to 47 off-street and then on-street from 47 to the, East Fifth, and then it also has a sidewalk spur to the high school. 80/20 cost share.
Big project.
It's kind of a long time coming, to be honest, but.
Be nice.
Any other questions or comments?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a license agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. Wessels?
Aye.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Selinchuk?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Scornia?
Yes.
Overmark?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an amendment to state block grant agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
Okay, this is, if you recall, a couple years ago, we did a pavement rehabilitation and striping of the airport runway. During the closeout of that project, we determined, or there was $538 over the state block grant amount basically allotted to us. So in order for us to close that project out, they had to do an amendment to that to raise the $200 and some odd $1,000 project by $538. And then we have to do an extension to the timeline in order to close the project out. So this is a pretty straightforward deal. They just close out documents that have to be done.
Any questions or comments? Okay.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an amendment to state block grant agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. Wessels?
Aye.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Hotmeyer?
Aye.
Selinchuk?
Yes.
Pettit?
Aye.
Yes. Scornia?
Yes.
Overmark?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a service agreement, MOU, Mobility Device Sharing Services, by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Neutron Holdings, Inc.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
So since the last time we discussed this, Sal couldn't be here tonight, so, but Chief is, obviously Chief is here and John is here. This went through the Traffic Committee at their meeting earlier this month. But there's a couple of things, as in Sal's letter, he points out. The first, to amend the code section that currently prohibits scooters to be utilized in city right-of-way. This ordinance would not allow them to occupy bike lanes in city streets. I think that's the next ordinance in your packet, 7G. Excuse me. The second is the memorandum of understanding, which is what is before you here, 7F, between the city and Lime Scooters. It says a 6-month trial period for the scooters to be placed in the downtown district. As discussed at the March Council workshop, the proposal was brought by a number of committees to determine any concerns and have Lime address any of those potential issues. And we've gone through, the following committees endorsed at least a 6-month trial period: Downtown Washington, Downtown Core, Washington Tourism, and Washington Traffic Committee. The Traffic Committee, as they said, raised some concerns about parking, enforcement, and safety. They brought those concerns to Lime. They were able to confirm that they have the ability, if needed to, prohibit areas, require designated parking, and reduce speed in certain areas by specific coding in the application. So they have ways of tracking that. It is the traffic committee and staff's recommendation to monitor the use of the scooters through the trial period and work with Lime to mitigate any issues that arise. I guess at one point, I would also clear, you do not even have to, if there's a problem after a month, we can pull the plug on the agreement, as far as it's my understanding, the way it's written. Mark's shaking his head. So you don't have to go through an entire 6 months if it wouldn't work. Staff, we also contacted Daniel and Henry to discuss liability concerns. We've covered those items in this memorandum of understanding. Mark had a chance to go ahead and review that. As far as liability, Lime scooter incident isn't any other difference than any other pedestrian or a cyclist using our public right-of-way, as far as that goes. So with those endorsements or whatever, the recommendation was to go ahead and move it forward with you with this memorandum of understanding with them. And then, like I said, if at any point during that 6-month trial that we feel that it needs to be pulled, whether it's due to traffic concerns, whether it's due to additional staff, park staff having to go ahead and pick them off of the trail because we don't feel that they're living up to their maintenance that they're saying that they will go ahead and do and pick them up. All of those, I think, are reasons why we could probably go ahead and cancel it if we ever run into that.
So Darren, they will be allowed to use the trail, Riverfront Trail?
Yes, as long as it's not a motorized vehicle is the way it reads, and this is not a motorized vehicle.
Mobility.
It's a mobility.
Mobility.
So if someone takes a scooter down the trail, battery goes out, or they just decide to leave it lay there, who picks it up?
Lime has people that they hire to go pick them up and put them back at the locations on a daily basis. That was the answer.
So I just see them sit around St. Louis and St. Charles City, then they're on every corner, and that's my concern is we have 75 scooters throughout town.
And if they're not keeping up with it, again, that's my understanding, that's a reason for us to go ahead and say, forget the trial period, we're not gonna do this, if they don't live up to their end of the bargain. They're supposed to be picking them up and moving them back.
And forgive me, I wasn't at the workshop meeting 2 weeks ago, but is there a desire and a need for these that has been met or been looked into?
All I can say is, Jeff, I haven't attended those meetings with it, but if you see Sal's letter, all of those boards, this was part of what they were looking for, especially downtown Washington was looking. This is one of their goals that they wanted to go ahead and have done.
Core and tourism both advocated for it, just because we don't have public transportation otherwise. They felt like it was a way to facilitate the movement from one end of Fifth Street, or Front Street to the other, from Front Street to Main Street.
Correct.
And they can program in a festival area they can GPS that off, that can go down to 1 mile an hour. If there's like the Barbecue and Blues Fest, let's say they're riding them through that, the top speed's 15 miles an hour, they can cut that festival area down to 1 mile an hour.
Or whatever, slower speed.
Stuff like that, so.
I think that the city of Washington's got enough liability right now, and then throwing this in on it's gonna give us even more liability. And I even asked Mark the last time we talked about this, and he said that they can sign a waiver, but a waiver don't mean much when you're going for a lawsuit. You're gonna go for somebody with the deepest pockets. Is that right, Mark?
That's correct.
So,
Yeah, so why do we want to add to it?
I'm with Jeff, working downtown St. Louis, St. Charles. You see these things just kind of thrown about wherever.
So Mark, you're still not comfortable even with the contract for them indemnifying us?
Yeah, I mean, we've done as much as we can do. We've increased the amount of liability insurance from what they originally proposed, we've increased that. That's been reviewed by our insurance agents, and they're in agreement with that. They had some language in there that they would not indemnify us if somebody was injured due to the conditions of the street or the sidewalk, whatever they were riding on. We took that language out of there. The insurance agent recommended that, and I did as well. So, again, I think we've done as much as we can do to minimize any impact on the city. But as Darren said, you have the same amount of risk as somebody cycling, I don't know about pedestrian, but you have the same amount of risk as somebody riding a bicycle down the street or down the trail.
So it's not a greater risk?
No, it's the same.
It's
It's another risk.
I'm sorry?
I think it's just another risk.
Okay, but it's not a greater risk. Having a company provide the scooters is not a greater risk than what if I were to get on my own scooter.
And it's a trial period. We can cut it off at any time.
Right.
Well, right now, and you'll see that in the next ordinance on 7G, right now, it's a violation of city ordinance to ride a scooter in the street or on the sidewalk or anywhere other than, I guess, a parking lot. So it's, you know, I'm sure it happens, and I doubt that the police department is going around looking for people riding scooters. But technically, it's a violation of your code for anybody to ride a scooter on the street, so.
Right. I was just thinking about the liability part of it. So.
Well, I'll add to what I said when we talked about this last meeting. Like Nick just said, Jeff just said, I work a lot down by the hospitals in St. Louis, in the hospitals in St. Louis, and they're all over. People dump them everywhere. They leave them, they look like trash, they're laying down on the sidewalks. What do we do when a handicapped resident wants to go down the sidewalk and there's two scooters in the way? Or what about an older citizen that's been here all their life and they want to walk downtown and they can't get down the sidewalk because the scooters are in the way?
We do have a slightly different population than the areas I think you might be talking about, though. So I'm not saying that those aren't legitimate concerns, but I think the trial nature of this, if we find after 2 weeks that's happening, then we could cancel it, right, Darren?
That's correct.
I agree with you to a certain point. The parameters of what they want to use them in is such a small area in my mind that people can walk for wherever they want to go.
And that's all we ever
Downtown
do.
Washington's not that big.
We always promote health. Why not walk?
Well,
We're just giving people opportunity to go from the train station up the street without climbing the hill.
If I could
Saying.
throw my thoughts in. I have concerns about the scooters, but if we are on a trial period, the complaints are going to come to the police department for the parking and leaving them lay and in the way, and we can keep track of that, and if it becomes an issue, it's easy to say, this is not working out.
Well, I don't know what kind of, I don't know terminology you use, Gretchen, but I don't know what kind of different we have out here. But all I know is even driving around down St. Louis, I've had them veer out in front of me. I've had them zigzag in front of me. I just think it's an accident waiting to happen myself, so I'm against it.
Where do they go? If everything is done right, where do they store them at? 75 scooters are stored at the train depot, or?
They're not all stored at the same spot, from my understanding. They have multiple locations, or stations where they have them at. As a matter of fact, I think that on, at least on one of the calls I participated on, for example, if there are too many at one destination, they can even go ahead and you won't be able to go ahead and there's a, whatever they have on them that they track on them, it'll make you and tell you that you have to go ahead and move it so you don't just leave it sitting right in front of a business, that you've got to go ahead and move it over to one of the stations where they're parked. And so those are things that they have the ability to go ahead and do if you have those problems. Now, I will say at traffic, just mention on Mark's, we did hear that. That was one of the concerns we voiced with regards to, our sidewalks are not as wide as St. Louis and Kansas City and those areas. So if they do start blocking those, that is an ADA access issue that we have to go ahead and be concerned with, so.
I have another question. So if we were, and it maybe seems doubtful, if we did pass this, we'd have to change the ordinance about scooters, correct? Are we, I guess the question comes back to
There is somebody
you.
here from Lime Scooters.
Like, are we comfortable with that? Or have we had issues with those in the past? Like, I'm wondering why that ordinance exists in the first
Why
place.
this ordinance,
That we would be required to change if we vote for this. So was there a reason for it?
I
Because
don't,
it makes,
you
that
remember
makes
why
me,
the scooters, or was it having to do with?
It had to do with children playing in the streets, scooters,
We referred to it as
all,
no fun.
yes, the no fun ordinance.
There's somebody
Yeah, it
from the
was no
company here.
fun.
Yes, there is.
It's been
come
in,
up here?
it's been in place for quite a long time.
Yes.
That ordinance.
I think it's been there.
Hi, I'm Allison Forms. I'm the Senior Ops Manager for
Take off your mask.
Missouri.
Take your mask down.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Why are you talking about?
What is your name?
Allison Forms, and I do manage St. Louis, and I have Oklahoma and Arkansas as well. Thank you for having me today, council members. Regarding the parking, if I can go ahead and talk about the parking where we were talking about earlier, we can actually zone areas for parking, so that way you won't see scooters left all over the sidewalks. We can also create slow zones. If there's areas that you feel the scooter should not be going 50 miles per hour, we can take it down to 10 miles per hour. Forest Park actually does that for all of their trails in that park.
How will you do that?
We just geofence it to make them go 10 miles per hour.
So when you would get into that area, automatically the scooter
Goes down to 10. Mhm.
slows down?
And then we can also zone, if there's areas where you don't want scooters at all, we can also zone off areas completely. So if
They
you
die?
feel,
They quit running?
they basically slow down to a stop, and then the user has to push them out of that area to start riding again. So we can do quite a few things. Like he said, the agreement, as soon as you say this is not working, I mean, I want to work with you as best as I can, but we can pull them within a day or two, to be honest with you. But I think, like, I've been coming here the last couple of weeks, and I think your city's perfect for scooters. The downtown area seems to be thriving. You have stop signs pretty frequently, so scooters will be slowing down for those stop signs. And just the trails in general, I think people will really like being on the trails as
Is there any other city that you have these in the size of Washington?
We have Guthrie in, not Guthrie, I'm sorry, Bartlesville, Oklahoma. It's a little bit of a smaller city. We just launched there a month and a half ago, and things have been going well so far. And we may have things that pop up as we launch that you're like, hey, can we make this area an area people can't go into? And I can have that done in a day. So we can definitely fix a lot of the issues that we're talking about.
Are we one of the smaller markets that you're getting into?
You are in Missouri, but we are approaching a lot of smaller markets and the suburbs of St. Louis currently. So we're hoping to really spread throughout the area.
Chief, do you think, through yourself, Mike Grissom and so forth, that perhaps before they ever start, we could get some of these areas zoned where we want it either slowed down or zero?
Some of them would be event-based.
Yes.
Then you might want to look at the traffic committee
Yeah.
to see if there's any areas where we should reduce speed or change some perimeters.
And how long do you think it would take to get something like that together?
I could tell Mike and get it to the next traffic meeting.
Which would be the
Well,
first?
we're going against our own ordinances already, and I just think it's another liability for the city of Washington. And I think that the people can get around fine downtown the way it is on any event. I don't think anybody here's had a problem getting around down there, walking from place to place on every time there's an event. I think throwing these scooters on top of everything it could be a problem, and why create a problem if you don't need it?
well, admittedly, we've already acknowledged the need for additional transportation in town. I mean, that's an ongoing discussion, at least since I've been on the council and serving on tourism in the core meeting. What are the incident rates with Lime scooters? Do you have some kind of reporting mechanism that if it
We do. So
crashes or?
So we can share all the data with you as far as ridership. We can show you heat maps that shows you exactly where the scooters are in mostly. But we'll share that with everyone that would like to have that.
What's it been in other cities? I know other markets are different than ours, larger than ours, et cetera, but do you have any data?
For
Accidents or incidents or?
I do not have that on me, no, unfortunately.
You know, I'm thinking, you know, perhaps we could table this. I'd like to see what traffic committee could come up with and see, you know, how much we could zone and restrict things. And at the same time, allow them to get us some of this accident data back to us. And so perhaps tabling it might give us the time to do that.
Well, I can't tell you what's going to happen here, but we've done some excavation projects throughout St. Louis as well, and we've had to drain down lakes and stuff like that. Wonder what's at the bottom of that lake. 3 or 4 Lime scooters. There's a Lime bike down there. And that doesn't fall on your company. I'm just saying what happens. And I'm afraid we're going to see that. We're going to see people flying in the river with them. We're going to see, it's just going to be trash. It's just going to be loitering. I just believe they're just not suitable for Washington.
Mr. Piontek, we have bicycle ordinance, they have to follow the same as the traffic laws. Would the mobility scooter be the same way? Would that be written in as the bicycle laws, so they have to obey the traffic ordinances? They have to stop at a stop sign, they have to,
It's not currently written.
not currently written?
So,
Chief, is the next traffic meeting on the April the 2nd?
So, yeah, first Friday in April.
That would be the first Friday.
Yes.
If you,
are we open that's Good Friday, are we open that day?
that morning,
That morning, okay,
We'll
all
have-
right. Just want to make sure.
yeah. I guess if you choose to table it, as what one person suggested, we can go ahead and take it back to the traffic committee with whatever concerns that you'd like them to go ahead and take a look at, and then it'll be back on the agenda, first meeting in April, which is April the 5th.
April 5th.
What, do we got a second on that?
So,
I would make a motion to table it if that's what you need.
I'll second it.
okay, so we have a motion by Wessel, seconded by Pettit, to table this item and take it back to the traffic committee, and then bring it back here. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Hey,
Do we need to do a roll call? Okay, could you please?
Wessels,
Aye.
Hydrich,
nay.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Selenchuk,
No.
Pettit,
Aye.
Scornia,
Yes.
Obermark,
Nay.
Patke.
No.
Is that a tie?
Yes.
Oh, isn't that fun? Well, you know what? Let's just take it back to the traffic committee one more time. If we've had it here this long, we might as well look at it one more time. So I'll be a yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again, right? Is that what I am? A yes.
And ma'am, if you could also get us the data to our administrator here about yours.
Okay, thank you for being here. Okay. Okay, so just a quick question. The next ordinance relates to this. Do we need to
You need to.
table that as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
So moved.
I just have a question. It says, no person throw rocks, play ball, ride roller skates, or small similar vehicle.
That's a no fun ordinance.
I get that, but it doesn't say scooter in here.
It did say scooter.
It did
We
say
took that
scooter, I
out.
think, and then it was taken out, so that's,
Right.
We removed it.
So as it stands right now, I can't play catch with my kid in the street.
Correct.
correct.
Right?
Can't play basketball in the street.
I know the basketball court thing, we took them off the streets and cul-de-sacs.
It's any ball, Jeff.
Or hockey.
So,
Chief, don't come to my house, okay?
all right, so if we get rid of this
Violate the
ordinance, we
law,
can do that
Jeff?
then?
I will say that we don't go out looking for it, so.
If
We
you're
do get a
concerned
com-
about, if you're concerned about, risk for the city, that's the reason why this was put in years ago with your insurance carrier. So if you remove it, then, or remove parts of it, that would be a concern that they would have.
And every once in a while, we get a complaint and have to go out and stop somebody's fun, but.
I mean, as a kid, I probably violated every one of these things.
But,
You should not
Rocks,
in
played ball, roller skated.
but there's no reason to change the ordinance right now, since we haven't looked, we're not going to look at Lime.
Correct.
So we could either table or just ignore this thing.
Yeah, I think there's.
Well, if it's on the
already
agenda,
a
we have to
motion
do
table.
something with it, don't we?
Yeah, I think there's already a motion to table it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Right, but so like Jeff was just asking, so if we ixnay this ordinance, so then we can throw rocks, we can play ball, we can ride roller skaters?
No, this is the corrected ordinance.
This is just an amendment.
All this does is amends it to take
Oh,
out.
to take out the
scooters.
scooter.
You can still be a, you know,
No fun, city.
yeah,
can't
no,
throw
it can
rocks.
still be no fun for the rest of the year.
That's great.
Okay, so did someone make a motion to table this?
I did.
Okay, and do we have a,
Second.
okay, so we have a motion by Pettit, seconded by Wessels to table item G. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. By your vote, you tabled that item. Thank you.
An ordinance amending section 220.015 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Saltrop.
Introduced by Councilman Sullentrup.
We discussed this at the last Administration Operations meeting to increase the minimum fee ton or less at the landfill from $15 to $30. And that's what this ordinance would do.
Okay, any comments or questions?
Is there any way we could make this even more for out of town? There's no way to track out of town coming
No,
there.
no way.
And we don't, and I guess my other question then is if
Not-
someone
not-
from rural Franklin County comes here with a pickup, $30 covers that. I mean, I understand if we're taking part of the cost for the citizens of Washington, but if it's someone else, we're covering our costs at that price.
At $30, are we covering our cost? I don't know if I did that analysis that far into it. You know, a vehicle or a truck or a minivan, we see those quite frequently. I mean, especially at $15, we get 85 to 90 of them a day on a Saturday, and it
Right.
does cause issues. Are we covering our costs at that with the additional, you know, tires in the mud and those type of things? Probably not. 30 would approach us to cover those costs a little more. But, you know, I think the goal there with having that minimum fee is not necessarily to cover your costs. It's more just a service to the community and surrounding areas. You know, the landfill makes the majority of its revenue from the areas that surround Washington, not necessarily in the communities around us, not from what the citizens of the town utilize. I would say that, you know, keep in mind your trash service is a limited trash. So, which means you don't have a bag number, maximum number. You don't have any of those things right now. Obviously, there has been a little bit of a, for lack of better terms, more of an effort by our new trash hauler to make sure things are bagged. I think you'll see that when you drive around town, that things just aren't strewn everywhere. But there is no unlimited trash. You know, people can utilize that, that facility as necessary.
I guess that's kind of
But there is no-
point.
sorry.
Sorry. So our citizens are using the trash system.
Correct.
And I guess my take is that we have out-of-town people using our landfill for $30 a pickup load on a Saturday.
Correct.
I guess.
15.
Just,
But you also have,
Well, it's 15 right now.
15
I would just be
today.
careful with using the word our. I mean, our, yes, we own it, we operate it, but it's a regional landfill.
It is. And it has to operate as such because that's how the funding,
Is what-
that's how you make the money.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
See, the goal, I mean, and again, if you recall, the current landfill lease expires in 2030. So it's in our best interest to try to get the landfill to operate till 2030. So currently today, I think we're at 2027 was the last landfill survey that was done. So the closer you can get to 2030, the better it is for our own citizens. And it allows us that time to come up with, and really to generate the revenue to figure out what your next solution is. Is that another landfill cell? Is that a transfer station? Is that literally just hauling trash away? We don't know what that is today, right now. Now, we've talked about it. We have, it's not that we're not looking into it, but I don't have a proposal to you yet. So if we can stretch that landfill operation out to 2030, that is actually in your best benefit for the operation in general. So this would help with that because you're not getting, the potential people driving from Warrenton or those type of things for that $15. Now, does it have a potential negative effect on your local people that go out there and use it? Well, yeah, it increased the fee by $15. But, if you recall, at the last admin ops meeting, we're looking at going to modifying the way we do big trash pickup as well to allow, at the end of Jeff, and you weren't there, sorry, but at the end, the last pickup of the month, you would have 2 items that were bulky, and you would have that every single month, which would allow you to have 24 bulky items every year, which is we think is a big increase to the service rather than have a big trash week type thing. So
Twice a year.
yeah, this would happen every month. So we're looking at ways to counter that a little bit, but it is a change.
One thing that's also extending the life, I guess, is just due to the fact that we were not taking in cardboard prior to this.
That's a fact.
A lot of people don't realize those new recycling containers are being used quite a bit, more so than Waste Connections, I think, was.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So if you recall, last spring, about this time actually, recycling was not happening in town. There was a multitude of reasons why. A, there is virtually zero market for recycling. It's next to nothing, especially with the way we did it. Because we would have the cleanest recycling, but we don't have the supply chains to sell it. So when that commodity went to basically nothing, we didn't have the inroads in that supply chain to get rid of it. So you're spending $300,000 a year on something that you can't even do anything with, per se. Now, we were getting rid of it, but the cardboard and the glass and those things, that would sit there for months on end until we could find somebody that just wanted it. So one of the goals with Waste Connections or with going out to bid for a trash contractor is that we were hoping they would have a supply market that we could at least go to single stream, which would capture that cardboard that was ending up and fluffing up your landfill. And when I literally say fluffing up, cardboard fluffs up. So you lose that airspace, which takes up the space that you have that counters that goal of trying to get to the end of the lease. So what you've done now is you've collected that cardboard, Waste Connection picks it up, and it goes to a different location where they sort it and have their own supply chain. So it all plays together in this whole conversation of trash, and it really came from that recycling market crashed. And you've also are locked into a 5-year rate with Waste Connections. So again, it just all kind of plays together.
John, wouldn't you anticipate that, doubling the cost for a pickup you say 75 vehicles on a Saturday? I would think this would cut that back quite a bit.
I would think it would.
Yeah.
So you're cutting back the usage, which is what's causing some of your mud concerns, those other things that we've talked about, and you're really not cutting your revenue at all. It's cutting back on the amount of people that come from essentially long distances for that $15.
Well, first of all, you say it's a regional landfill.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we dictate what we're going to charge for a person to take a dump truck in there. From 15 to 30 is what we want to do. What's wrong with going back to the old way with the stickers, city stickers that they have on their windshields? And I know people would use somebody else's vehicle to take it out there, but if you could take non-residents and raise it to $40 a pickup load, and we'll make money off of that, and if we stay at the 30, it'll keep more people from coming out there anyway.
We've looked into, we didn't look into this specific discussion regarding city stickers, but that was an item that was discussed, even using our recycling center for, for the woody materials and those type of things, that you would make it as right now it's free to anybody, but you'd make it as a service to the community and charge everyone else. I have not looked into that for this operation. It has the potential to slow things down operationally at the landfill, but I don't know if that's a big deal.
I'm just looking at your increased manpower to verify,
You'd have that. That would be you'd have to increase that, but
verify, are they from the city? Are they not? Do they have a sticker? Do they not? Whose truck are they driving? I mean,
We don't have city
things you'd have to
stickers.
go ahead and check.
We don't have city stickers currently.
No,
do not.
We have not had it.
And I
Right,
don't even
and that's,
know.
that's
It was
my
a
point.
city tax
But if
paid or
this,
something.
and this is kind of what I alluded to when I first started, if our minimum fee was $50 to come in there on Saturday and dump whatever you want, and if you can show a water bill for the city of Washington, the fee's $30. That's kind of what I was getting at to start with. And that's kind of going along with what Steve's saying, either a city sticker or It's $50 for everybody, unless you show a city water bill, now it's 30, or, in somewhere in that line.
And identification.
Right, identification and your water bill
Not,
shows you're a citizen.
non-residents would pay what? I'm sorry, doesn't there?
I'm just simply throwing out a number. I'm saying if it's $40 or $50
Okay,
for a trailer or a truck or whatever you're gonna do, anything under the ton and a half or whatever it is.
done.
And then if you can show your water bill and an ID, then you get it for the city discount. And then we don't have to buy city stickers. I mean, you still have manpower to check it, but that's just a,
They could bring a water bill up to the window when they pay.
We could, no, and we could definitely look into that. I could definitely talk with,
now you're gonna find somebody who goes there every Saturday and not know that and the first time, and the fee went from 15 to 50, and they're gonna freak out. But if you say you bring your water bill back, we'll cut it to 30, whatever the number may be. Just a thought, again, I wanna get those people who are using us to pay that we're gonna cover our cost, the fluff of the landfill and extend the life.
Is it, and again, we're brainstorming solutions here, but would it be better if the person requested a refund somehow to where our staff at the landfill, who is, maybe constantly under pressure to get people in and out of there, just would charge the fee and then you would request a refund from the city? I mean, we could look at maybe even doing something like that to where there's not two different fee structures at the point of sale. It's more of something you do after the fact, which would allow additional time.
Well, then somebody else has got to do something.
Right, then it's an accounting
Sam.
issue, right?
But it's a lot easier than I think that when the sale house has got, a line of cars going all the way out to Bluff Road.
Which that happens.
And then you're gonna sit there and add on additional, well, I don't know if you're a city. Well, I don't, that's extra added step, I'm just saying, and that's not gonna get people moving through there.
Right.
And we already have issues where people get angry because if they're not there by a certain time, et cetera, the gate closes and that's it.
Well, for tonight, I'm fine with going to $30, but I'd like to continue to look into it.
Yeah.
And see what kind of issue we have.
That's fine.
Well, and
Reinvent it tonight.
we're always trying to do better, and that was the whole whole discussion. Even going to contracted trash service is look for ways to improve the service as we kind of got into it. So no, that's not an issue at all. I want to make sure I talk with landfill staff to make sure we can handle that. It is not uncommon on a Saturday morning in the spring or summer, whenever, to get 80 to 90 people coming in there. And you can imagine 80 to 90 people in a 3-hour span is a very, very, very stressful and unorganized potentially situation, especially if you've been in that line for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and that gate closes in front of you because the closure time is there. That is not a good place to be on a Saturday.
With a truckload of junk.
Yeah.
Two things. One, could you look at keeping the landfill open until 5 on Saturday?
We'd have to have additional staff.
Right, I understand. I mean,
Good.
an overtime situation. I'd just be careful on raising the price too much, because that's just going to increase your illegal dumps. Everybody's dumpster somewhere will be potentially, you drive out to the landfill and they want $50. Well, I'm not paying that. You spin around, first thing you do is find a dumpster somewhere and throw it off, whether it be somebody's construction dumpster somewhere or an apartment complex or whatever. I mean, the higher you raise that rate, I understand what you're trying to say, but I think that may cause you more problems trying to raise the rate higher. They could
They're doing
dump it
that
off
now.
anywhere. Huh?
People are doing that now.
I understand, but it could get worse too. So.
Okay. Anyone else, or we'll go ahead and, well, this is to 30 now, Nick. So,
We'll look at it.
and we'll look at something else.
So we're doubling it.
15 to 30.
Okay.
That's the proposal. And again, if you wanted to change that to some other number, I mean, that's your discretion.
And 30 is going to make less people go out there? That's what you're thinking?
I mean, it's twofold, yes. We would anticipate that people that are coming from, counties away are not going to come out there for $15. Now, I don't know that, but that's what we're anticipating.
I think-
It would also, sorry.
Well, the only thing, like I said, if we move forward with the proposals with Waste Connections to do 2 large pickup items at the end of every month, I think that will also reduce the amount of people that go out there. 'Cause
If we
right
get the
now,
word out.
you either have to pay for that or you hold it at your property until one of the big trash days.
I think that number has always kind of fluctuated, because I remember going out there one time with one thing and it was $35.
Yeah, the way we used to do it, or the way that it was done prior to when we had the commercial rate increase a couple years ago, was it was prorated every 200 pounds. So the minimum tipping, I think the tipping fee at that time was $45 a ton, and then every 200 pounds, as you approach that $45 a ton, was prorated. So if you had 1,200, or it's a bad example, if you had 1,000 pounds, it would be, 20, whatever that is, 24.50 basically. So it was prorated up. But the problem with that is there's a lot of change, there's just a lot of problems with that. A lot of arguing about the 200 pounds, if you were 220 versus whatever. It was an issue. And the $15 minimum was a way to combat the large rate hike for the construction community a little bit. That's why it was implemented at 15, was because it would kind of provide a carrot to do so. A lot of dump trailers would be less than 2,000 pounds. That was the reason to do so. We ran a report on that. I think there was only 2 contractors that that basically saw a benefit from that. But what we've seen was the flip side of that is there's just a lot of people utilizing it from outside the area.
John, if you check with like Cuba, is that the next closest one?
Cuba's the next closest one. I just drove by there on Friday afternoon.
What do they
You want to
charge?
see mud on the road, check that one out.
What do they charge?
I don't know what their fee structure is right now today. We are higher than them, for a fact. We are in the top tier of the St. Louis area as far as our tipping fees, for sure. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's kind of where supply and demand will dictate price. And as we remember, I think your number one priority here is just make sure citizens have a place to approach that 2030 number. And the landfill was subsidized from 1996 to so long that you didn't have any money in reserves in order to build the next thing. That's why the fees had to be raised.
That's why we opened the last cell.
And remember, if you recall that, we opened that last cell to make money at this, to make sure that you have a solution when that landfill fills. Because
Plus, we
prior to,
need-
you did not have a financial solution.
Plus, we need the money to maintain
That's
it.
exactly right.
How many millions of dollars do we need
What's that?
to take care of it once we
Yeah,
close it?
that all is.
Close it up?
Yeah, that's all, yeah, the post closure dollars, those all get reserved and set to the side anyway. That's all part of.
Right, but that's
essentially
how
the
many
money that we-
millions?
What's that?
That's quite a big number.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what it varies.
Mary knows it probably.
Suppose the $30, oops, sorry. Suppose the $30 doesn't slow people down, getting back to what Nick was asking. If you're gonna charge them double something, you should be able to have some more employees out there. If you're getting $30 instead of 15, you could stay open a little bit longer and hire somebody else.
We could definitely look at that. If you recall, the landfill also pays for the recycling center, which you have door-to-door recycling right now. Why do you need to have a recycling center open? Because you're actually, the city of Washington is paying for the recycling center for Franklin County. Your citizens are.
You look at that too?
So when
We could have an easy solution for that for you.
So when you hear things such as the recycling center is always full, those things, every time when they call me and they talk, when people actually reach out to my office and we talk through it, those things about why it is, I've not found one person that's actually reached out to me that was a city resident. It's people from New Haven and in the areas around you. So you pay for that, and it really comes out of the funding at the landfill. So yes, we could fix those issues because you'd have additional funds, maybe to add a couple more dumpsters out there as well. Is that something you want to continue to subsidize? That's a different discussion. Now, I do think apartment people do utilize it. I think small businesses do utilize it sometimes as well.
That's the benefit that I see.
But they aren't the
I have
ones,
small businesses that use it now in town, and they don't have that,
And
take away
apartments
that.
don't have that yet either.
What's that?
And apartments.
Yeah,
don't.
like he said.
they don't. It's their option. Businesses have the option also to contract out and get recycling services. They just choose to utilize the free service or not free, but the subsidized service that we had at that location.
I guess
Okay,
we'll see how the $30 goes.
And I mean, we could look into the city stickers. I mean, those type of things could solve a lot of problems, even with the recycling center, to be quite honest with you.
Well, we used to have them. I mean, somebody had to get out and look at it anyway.
What's that?
Somebody had to get
Wasn't
out
that a
like
tax we paid?
a day anyway.
That was the tax. That was your, when we,
When you paid your city tax, you got a city sticker.
correct.
John, how
Oh,
come our
nice.
trash trucks are out today?
I'm sorry, what?
How come our trash trucks are out today?
Our what?
City trash trucks were out today. What were they doing?
We do have one trash truck that's still available. It is the, what Monday is it? Our trash truck is our leaf route truck. So they take everything on the leaf routes and those things, put it in the back of the trash truck because it compacts it, and then we can take it to the recycling
limb.
center. Leaf and
Leaf
limb
and
pickup
limb.
is on
Limbs and
Mondays.
Leaves.
We use the trash truck as a leaf and limb truck. That's one of the, one of the things we utilize. And we do still have a trash truck. Parks uses it. We use it during events, those type of things.
Okay, anything else?
An ordinance amending section 220.015 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Wessels?
Aye.
Heiдрich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Solentrip? Pettit?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Overmark?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance amending section 235.010 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holdemeyer. We're all looking at each other.
Well, I think, from my understanding, this was a clarification with regards to the ordinance and the procedure for when you have,
Junk violations,
I'm sorry,
or junk
for
violations.
junk violations.
And
et cetera.
abatement of
Yes.
those violations.
I think Mark made some changes and proposed this ordinance.
Yeah,
That would be
basically,
you, Mark.
it just kind of clarifies the hearing process. If you get a notice that you're in violation, what the hearing process is to go forward and have it declared a nuisance. And then if it's not cleaned up, the process we have to go through in order to be able to do the cleanup ourselves and charge the cost back.
Any questions, comments?
An ordinance amending section 235.010 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Wessels?
Aye.
Heiдрich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Yes.
Solentrip? Pettit?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Overmark?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance amending section 265.070 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke.
As Wayne's walking up here, you can see within his letter, there's an application that would have to be made to the Parks Department. I think Wayne's talked with both the athletic organizations that have utilized these in the past. In the past, though, we have not received any funds as a result of those. Those went purely to the athletic associations, and thank you. I'll let you go ahead and take it from there.
Several years ago, or I guess when I first started, I was made aware of athletic banners on the outfield fences of some of the ball fields in the park system. And with talking with Darren, we realized that the city had an ordinance against advertising in or on city property, and specifically parks. We have an ordinance under parks about merchandising, advertising, and signs. And after talking with some of the sports organizations, we realized that they were sponsorship banners, where the organization on the banner would pay the youth organization a certain amount of money to hang their banner on the fence. And a solution to this issue would be for the organization to pay a small fee to the city in order to hang the banner on the fence. I discussed it with Kent Getsky of the Legion League, and I know they do different banners at different pricing for the baseball season, for the Legion season, and he was fine with a suggested fee. I threw a fee out of $50, and he was fine with that. And that $50 would then go into helping pay for maintenance of the athletic field and facilities. And then that would cover, then everyone would be in compliance with the ordinance. And in the letter in your packet, I had a number of requirements in there, including the size of banners, who's responsible for installation and removal, the fees listed, how long the banners can be up, who owns the banners, and that the city's not responsible for lost or stolen banners. And then any banner that would be hung up that could be controversial, that promotes illicit drugs or firearms, would be at my discretion. So they would be asked to take them down if I figured out that it was, caused an issue with the city. And so that would all be put into a form. When they come in to pay their athletic field fees for the season, they would submit this form listing who their sponsors are, and then a fee would be calculated at $50 per banner.
Wayne, before I forget to ask, so this is directed into the American Legion for Brunswick Field? Or is it-
They're one of the organizations. I know soccer was also, they inquired about it last year, but didn't hang anything up. And when we ran this through Park Board, one of their members that sits on Parks and Rec Council was in favor of the $50 fee, because they want to be able to hang banners up legally, because I think they have some
But they leave them
sponsors.
up all year, all season?
During their season, yes.
Just during their.
So if a person wanted to have, let's just say you wanted to have a softball tournament out at the park, and it was a weekend deal, and they wanted to get a bunch of sponsors to help pay for our tournament, are we going to charge them too for one weekend deal?
For our tournament, I'm working on some tournament fees that you may see in a couple weeks or a month or so. But yeah, I think that's,
This would be, yes.
I believe that's how football operates now. Now, I think football is hanging those banners up now, and they put them up during the tournament and then take them down when the tournament's over. They don't stay up during the season. But that's what I would envision, yes, is for a tournament that they could hang them up and for that weekend or whatever it is.
And they would have to
and
pay
take it down.
$50 per?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, they collect about $400 for each banner.
I'm just saying,
I've-
if somebody's having a softball tournament over the
Right.
weekend, and they're trying to make some money,
I understand.
and you're gonna charge $50 a banner for them to hang a banner for Saturday and Sunday.
The idea was to try to go ahead, you had to have some type of fee there, because otherwise, what's to prevent anybody from advertising anything on the city park?
And this has been discussed at parks for a number of years. Even way back when it was, Lions had and it's not really pertained to those people. They had it on the backstop of some of those fields. When they did away with that, people put them on the outfield fences or wanted to. And for a long time, even before Wayne was here, it was always no. It was always not allowed. And then the Legion did some, like they would have sponsors at the Brunswick. And this is just a way to basically level the playing field with everybody for the same reason. Now, I do understand what Steve's saying, if it's going to be a season of 4 months and they're paying $50 per banner, or if it's a weekend. The problem is the fields they use on the weekends are going to have banners up already because they're there for the season. You know what I'm saying? So we may have to have a different option for those weekend tournaments as part of that.
He can look at it when he.
Yeah, part of that application fee for the weekends.
Like Lakeview Park, they put them out there all summer long?
Not so much at Lakeview, at Ronzik, they're there, and then, Lakeview football, yeah, I think just on their specific weekend, they take them up put them up on Saturday or Sunday and then take them right back down.
We're saying
Where this
baseball
time
and softball want to, but we've always told them no. So they could go out for sponsorship from companies and now do this.
Yes, and I know soccer was excited about it.
Right.
So, Wayne, is there going to be a certain number that's going to be allowed banners put up, or is it the whole thing going to be able to be placard with them?
Well,
The whole
fence. We can, address that problem if it becomes an issue, but right now, I think at Ronzik, they had like 10 or so banners up, spaced out real nice and evenly across the outfield fence. Soccer, they haven't had anything up, but I know they got some real long fences that they could hang a number of banners if they wanted to. At this point, I don't see that becoming a problem, but maybe in the future it could.
And I didn't read I didn't see it anywhere. Are you going to allow political banners to be put up as long as they're paying the $50?
I don't think we can do that on city property.
I didn't.
Can't do that on city property.
No, that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking.
No,
I-
but you can, Mark and I are looking at each other, I don't know. if-
That's, I didn't hear anything. That's why I want to make sure it's in there,
think
so.
It hasn't been a problem, other than the problem that you've had is the fact that people have put up signs with illegally based upon your code.
I mean, I have it in
Trying to
here.
come up with a solution, I know that that's, but like I said, I don't know that there's anything that you could.
I have it in here. It says, remove any banner if viewed controversial or promotes illicit drugs or firearms. I don't know if that covers that or.
Well,
that would
political's
cover
not
it,
drugs and, but,
I was
well, it could be,
middle
I
of
guess.
typing an email to you and Darren
Budweiser.
right now
Oh.
that said that that particular provision is probably unconstitutional. You can't have a content-based restriction.
Right.
Which is what that would be. So in the example I was going to give you is if Mercy Hospital, and I shouldn't pick names of local people, but some organization, some charitable organization wants to put a banner up that supports its charity, you can't say, yes, we'll allow that, but you have, and I'll give you an extreme example, you can't have the Ku Klux Klan come out and want to put a banner up and you say, no, that's objectionable, we won't allow that.
Right.
You can't pick and choose. And I say the Klan because there was a case down on I-55 where they tried to adopt a highway section.
Yeah.
And MoDOT refused, the Klan sued and won. Because you can't prohibit that message just because you think it's objectionable. So it's,
So do we have to adjust this ordinance then?
well.
The ordinance
it's
is
not in the
simple.
ordinance.
Yeah, the ordinance, this is just a
Doesn't get into
guideline.
Yeah.
Material of it.
Right.
That's why we kept that as simple as possible. It just says advertising banners are allowed on athletic field fencing for $50 fee per banner per season, subject to an approved application by the Parks and Recreation Department.
This is part of the application process that we need to look into.
Right, and we can strike that from the application process.
Yeah, that number 10 says he can remove them based on content.
And that's what he's saying.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
is We need to delete that.
So we can strike 10.
You can't pick and choose what message you like and what message you don't like.
If we would, I would suggest this, move forward with this, we can revise our application procedure. If you would have a problem with any sign whatsoever, we can always strike this whole thing again and take the banners down.
So I never got a clear answer. Is that a yes or no on
For
Mark, on political banners?
For political.
So is that a yes or no for political banners then?
Well, we have another provision in the code that says you can't put political signs on
city
public
property. Right, so that'll cover that.
There we go.
That'll cover that. Okay, my next thing, Wayne, is when I first got on the council, I came up with a $25 rental fee for pavilions around Lions Lake. Got it pushed in. I was on the Parks liaison for a lot of years, and that was one of my ideas when I got on the council, because I was always tired, growing up as a kid, you had to get out there like at 4 in the morning and sleep out there to get around Lions Lake. So, came up with a $25 fee. My idea was at the time, take that $25 rental fee and put it in a kitty, and then when one of them needs to be updated, a new roof, I wanted them to get all electric in all of them, all the pavilions. So we went by 3 or 4 years, and so I brought the city staff, which was different staff at the time, and I said, so how much do we have in this kitty? Because we've been renting these pavilions. Well, we can't just put that money aside for that. So where is this money gonna go? And what's it gonna be technically used for?
I mean, I think the idea is that based on the number of banners that they have up, so if it's 10 or whatever it may be, then we as in the city, the department is doing our part to make sure that the field gets seed or fertilizer or whatever it may need, or if they have a request to have the building painted, that we take care of it. Those are things that we normally do, but we want to make sure that we're pulling our weight and that we actually have money budgeted for it. So I would look at the budget then, based on previous years, how many banners soccer had, how many banners baseball had, and try to budget that amount, looking forward, how much money we're going to need to put in to field maintenance or facility maintenance and things like that.
I hope that stays, because like I said, that was my idea with the pavilions, and that money was gone. Don't know where it went.
Yeah. I'm
It
sure
never
this goes
got
into-
used for what it was supposed to be used for, so I hope this actually gets used to keep the fields and stuff in good condition. That's all I'm asking.
Anyone else?
Anything else?
Okay.
An ordinance amending section 265.070 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Wessels?
Aye.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Stolentrep? Pettit?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Overmark?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 21-13265 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri, being an ordinance amending section 700.020 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
So at the last council meeting, you all approved an ordinance to modify the water code to make the curb stop the property of the city, which would allow us then to maintain those curb stops. Unfortunately, I did miss a section in that code that that did not get changed. So it's just basically an error on my part, and this would revise that error to make sure that it does follow the intent of what we were trying to do.
Any questions or comments?
An ordinance amending ordinance number 21-13265 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri, being an ordinance amending section 700.020 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Wessels?
Aye.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Stolentrep? Pettit?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Overmark?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance annexing 7.95 acres adjacent to the overlook at Weber Farms into the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke.
So I apologize, I did not get a visual up, but this is the last phase of the Overlook Weber Farms. They are currently not annexed in the city, and they're just requesting annexation to move forward with completing that development. It's the same developer that's developed the first couple phases.
Isn't that basically where the lake's gonna be?
Yeah, they're proposing a, I don't know, an 1.5 acre, 2-acre pond.
Okay.
Any questions or comments?
An ordinance annexing 7.95 acres adjacent to the overlook at Weber Farms into the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Wessels?
Aye.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Stolentrep? Pettit?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Overmark?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Commission, committee, and board reports, illegal tree removal, East Riverfront Trail.
Okay, in your packet tonight is a letter from the Park Board expressing their concern about the tree removal, the illegal tree removal. It's just an informational item, and to share with you all. So it's in the packet tonight.
I make a motion, we accept it in the minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Nick Overmark. Excuse me, Nick, I didn't call you whatever, but anyway. By Steve Sullentrup and Nick Overmark to accept this item into the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, guys.
Mayor's report.
I just have one item I want to comment on this evening. Darren and I had sent out emails to all of our candidates that we have. We have quite a few candidates running for offices this term. And so asking them if they had any questions or anything like that, they could come forward and meet with us or whatever if we wanted to explain anything, or if they had any questions that that they maybe would need some answers for. So anyway, to date, we have met with Tessie Steffens. We had our first round of meetings last Friday. And to date, we've met with Tessie Steffens, Dan Contarini, and Dwayne Reed. And we had really good meetings with all three of them. A lot of good questions. A lot of times, it's easy, as you all know, it's easy to think that things should work one way as opposed to the other way. And then when you become a little more informed about different situations, you realize that, oh, okay, I get it now. And so we had some really good meetings, and it was, the exchange of information was very good. So anyway, so we do have other dates available. So if anyone else would like to visit, we're certainly available. But I think it was a very time well spent. So, and that's really all I have.
City Administrator's report?
The only thing I have to bring up with you tonight is as some of you might have heard, the American Rescue Plan of 2021 was passed by the federal legislature, and as a result, the city is in for a direct payment in the amount of $2.6 million, not all at one time, but there are stipulations with that. And there are some guidelines or how the money can be used for, not guidelines, I guess, categories that the funds can be used for. So I will be sharing those with you. I can share you a 4-page briefing that we received that kind of outlines what the funds can be used for. What we would also, I spoke with several department heads today. We've got several projects that the city has been working on in the past, and some of these funds could be used to help push those projects and make them a reality. But I also wanted to let the council be aware of, if you have projects, after we send this to you and you see the categories of what the monies can be spent for, if you have projects or you feel that there's something that you might have heard or you feel that the city should take a look at, by all means, get those into me. We plan on having the committee with those department heads and getting a couple council members to also go ahead and sit in on those meetings and then present something to you at a later date. We've got some time. There's not until 2024 before the funds have to be spent. But like I said, that's just the latest and greatest that we've got. So.
Darren, like the CARES funds, will these flow through the county and have to receive their approval?
No, these go straight to the city.
So we are getting a raise.
COVID.
You want to call it that, Steve? That's.
That'd be great.
Do you have anything else?
I have nothing else.
Council comments?
Council comments?
Yes, if nobody else has, I've got a few things. The water main break we had in Ward 2, Washington Heights, Wednesday or Thursday. I've had some calls. I don't know if Mark's been getting any. Some people are saying they never got a call from Code Red telling them about anything was going on. Maybe they were out of the area. I don't know, but they still had problems. There was a bunch of air pushed through their system. They had problems with their toilets and some faucets and stuff. So I had calls on that Saturday. What area was supposed to get the Code Red?
Yeah, so, sorry, going into great detail here with this.
Truck.
But yeah, so approximately 9:15, I think it was on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday.
Was it Tuesday?
It might have been Wednesday, sorry. But 9:15, Kevin notified me of the water main break, and typically that's how it works. I mean, they'll get operational guys on there to get work and try to identify kind of what's going on. 99% of the water main breaks that we have are completed under pressure. So there's no issue, there's no reason to, go to the situation of a boil order or those type of things. In this specific instance, when I got on site and Kevin was already there, they've already hydro excavated down to where the problem was. It was actually the bottom of a pipe, had a crack in it at the joint, which was 100% due to just constructability issues. There was a deflection at that connection that kind of caused that, which required us, rather than to put a band on it and fix it, we had to actually physically cut a section of pipe out, about the size half this desk. So that's kind of what triggered the need for the boil order. Now, again, the pipe was under pressure. So what we did was we organized, did not have to be repaired at that exact moment. We identified on our mapping system to try to keep that boil order to a minimum, to the smallest area we possibly could. The valving system was on Beaker Road and Washington Heights. That's what kept that area on Lexington in that kind of red zone. We were able to get the mapping ready to go. The code red was set up, ready to go. Then at approximately 10:30, I've called Kevin and said, okay, shut the valves off. The code red's going to go out. That's what triggered that very finite area. So we could close the valve off. The people within that zone were the ones that were going to be most affected. The reason why we did that was rather than put the whole southern half of the city in a boil order, which was really unnecessary, we tried to isolate it, which we felt was a positive for not just Ward 2, but the majority of people to the south. The issue arose is when we went to go shut the valves off, the ones that we identified. We exercised the valve on Beaker Road that inadvertently shut the water off to Beaker, to Weber Heights, Caleb Court, the areas to the south. Normally, that would not be a problem because those areas are actually looped from Rabbit Trail as well. It was odd to us that when we shut that valve off on a loop system, why would we have an issue at those areas south? We had no idea. Then we went into a scramble situation of, oh, shoot. We shut off pressure to other areas around town. Again, that was not planned. That was not anticipated. The plan that we had prior to just kind of fell apart when that valve got turned off. Kevin immediately got the valve turned back on, to get those pressures increased. And then we found another valve beside that one, which turned off to Lexington. So again, you had a plan. The plan kind of fell apart on you. We had to do an emergency to make sure that those people were served, for the next couple of days or the next day while we were, getting that boil order and getting the testing done. What we found out after the pipe was cut out in Lexington was that there was a valve that was closed on the new overlook at Weber Farms that was never turned on when that system was taken over. Again, we were anticipating that valve was on. That valve was not on. So then it goes back to, okay, how did that happen? It's a post-incident review of what happened. When the subdivision was taken over, our current inspection procedures, we do not exercise the valves. It's up to the developer to turn those valves on. When I come to you with taking over infrastructure, they certify that everything was put in per plan. I had that certification, I had those things, but we did not inspect those. Moving forward, how to make sure this never happens again is we will be exercising all valves in the development to make sure they are on and operational. That could have an inspection fee increase on water lines. Because again, that's not something we currently do today. So we're going to have to fund that additional inspection due to this, quite honestly, contractor error at that situation. So moving forward, we went and then we started flushing water lines and those things, and that's probably what maybe caused some of the, the potential for the error in the lines. Now, I did receive 2 calls, I think, about issues with toilets and those things, and
From Caleb Court?
Caleb Court was one of the locations. And I told the gentleman, I said, your recourse here is to get with the city's insurance, because that's what your recourse is on any event that you think was caused by the city. I've not, the city clerk takes those. I sent him everything he needed to know. I sent her contact information, but I've not heard anything. I advised the individual to get a private plumber in there to fix whatever issue he has, and then keep all of his receipts and just write down the timeline that he witnessed, just like we would. So that's where it sits. But again, that's up to the citizen to follow up with our insurers to take care of those things. And that's a long explanation about what happened, but that was a very, I've not been through a boil order with the city. I don't think that they happen very often due to the way that we fix water lines.
It's been 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, but again, I felt that we did a really decent job of trying to identify the area that would be affected to keep the issue minimized and very isolated. And then we got that information as a direct code red to the people in that red line. So not the whole city didn't get the code red, the people outside didn't get the code red. If you were in the red area that we anticipated to have the issue, you received the code red. And then we put up on media sources for everyone else who was just curious about what was going on.
So Caleb Court
Was not in it. They were not,
red
they were not in the
They were
initial.
affected as a result of that valve down.
because of that, not because of.
That's correct.
Correct. And this is not a, this should never happen with that valve being closed. That's about as simple as I can make it for you. This should not happen. This does happen. I think, Mark Scornia briefed us on a situation they had in the county at one time where this happened before. So what we have to do is look at, when these subdivisions get developed, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? And that's what caused essentially the hiccup outside. But again, we went as quickly as we can to resolve it, so where that boiler did not have to expand. And that's the biggest thing, was keeping it very isolated, which we did, but it did cause some of these other issues and people saying, well, I didn't get the answer, I didn't get this. We had some calls inside the boiler area, why didn't we go door to door? That's a decent question. I mean, our way of communicating with each individual citizen is code red. And then the media sources that we have. It's not dynamic, it's the best we can do. If the entire city, hypothetical, but if the entire city was in a boil order, I mean, going door to door to 6,500 residents it is a task that we couldn't undertake. So I would just encourage people that if Code Red is a great resource, we use it for trash pickup, as you all are aware, that was our only way to communicate with people. Communication has to be wanted as well. So, and again, the individual I spoke with, he was outside of that. That's why he didn't get a call.
All right, I think they were thinking they should have got a call.
Right, they were thinking they should have got a call because they thought that the city didn't identify them as a part of that immediate thing that John was talking about.
And we didn't. They were not part of that. But what happened was, as the emergency presented itself and it expanded, we scrambled. We just scrambled as fast as we could to fix the issue, and then we should have went back and maybe made, maybe explain that a little bit. But no, I understand.
Good evening, council. I am not the expert on Code Red. Lisa Moffett is, but I do have a working knowledge of it. So there's a couple limitations to Code Red. First, it is a voluntary system. We don't plink everyone's phone number in because we don't know everyone's phone number. So that's limitation number one. If folks, even in that area, the affected area, have not chosen to join, notify us that they would like to be notified on Code Red, they're not in the system. And the second limitation that we struggle with, even with our own personnel, city personnel, we find out every year when we run the tornado drill and we run the earthquake drill, that people have signed up 5 years ago on Code Red and they have their home phone number on it. And since then, they've gone cellular or whatever, or changed phones, or changed jobs, and the phone was for their job, not their personal. So every year we struggle with that as well, just to keep that database current. So it's a good system. It's not a perfect system.
And I will say that we are planning on having a post-incident meeting amongst all of us to figure out how, what went wrong and what we could do better. And that goes from the development of the subdivision, which was what really caused the issue on Caleb Court, to did we properly notify everybody within the boil order area, which again, I felt if we had the valve was opened, this would have been a much smoother situation. That's the thing that caused the areas outside of the the boil order area. That was the source. So.
Okay. My next question will be to you as well, John. We had some problems down at number 6 Well House down on 9th Street, and you came up with a sign to put there. Very small sign. I think we need to put maybe a different sign up. Maybe city property of City of Washington, or it's private property, something. Now on that lot, on city's property, we have a boat sitting there, and we have vehicles still parked in that lot. Now we have a boat just sitting there on a trailer, just sitting in our lot.
Okay, I'm not aware.
I made a call to Chief today about it, and so obviously that resident's not getting the the point, you know.
Yeah,
I think they think it's their
I'm not
personal
aware.
parking lot. I'm just,
Yeah.
maybe we need to look into, I talked to Chief as well, and he even had a recommendation. We need to maybe come up with, you know, because the sign's only this big.
But if it's a repeated offender, I don't know that the size of the sign is going to make a difference with them. I think what might have more of an impact is if we can go ahead and tow the vehicle off.
Well, and I made the call to
Just-
Chief. I mean, I went through the channels, so, again, I'd hate to see somebody get hurt on city property. We all know liabilities, and they come back to us. So just something, if we could look into that.
I believe at the time when that first brought to our attention, there was no sign. So I think Chief
Exactly.
indicated to me that, hey, we got to get a sign
So
up
we have
so we can
something
enforce the
standard.
sign. So
Right.
we have a sign now, so I think we'll just have to work together. And again, I don't send inspectors down there every day. I don't send them down there once a quarter, to be quite honest with you.
When I get calls, I bring them forward.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I just.
But we'll,
So, something if we can look into that, or
yeah.
maybe try to police it. I don't know. I don't know what the correct answer is there, but, and also while I have your attention, Chief, I know there a little while, I was seeing, we were getting emails for, derelict vehicles and unlicensed vehicles, reports how many were getting ticketed and this and that. I have not seen that in a while, and I'm still seeing quite a bit of derelict vehicles sitting around. And unlicensed vehicles driving around, and the epidemic's over. I mean, well, it's not over, but the license bureau's open. They can go register their paper plates. I still see paper plates from 2019 driving around. If we can,
That's one of those issues that you take care of it, but somebody else new comes along. I mean, I've got 3 within the past week notifications of different places. And our officers go out, because we have a couple officers that specialize for the code enforcement, and look, and they've written several warnings and given abatement dates to move or take care of derelict vehicles. So we'll just keep working at it, and I can give another report on how many we've handled since the last time.
and believe me, I appreciate all your efforts. It's awesome. I mean, you guys nailed a bunch of them, and we need to keep nailing them. We need to clean this town back up. It's just, also, to you, Darren, you said earlier, I would like, as a council, to look back into the local bid with the state contract. Even if the state contract is whatever the amount was tonight, 50, whatever, let's just say 50,000. Let's see if Modern can match it and give them some money. Or Offenberger, I'm not just pinpointing Feltman's, I'm just saying, I myself would like to see that be put in there, at least give our local vendors a chance to match it.
I talked to Tony,
I
I
have
talked to Tony today, and like Offenberg, can't compete with the state contract. They don't even want to take the time.
Modern has though, Joe. Modern's competed with it. We've questioned it up here on the council.
Well, and
They've matched it.
I guess my answer would be simple as this. If the council wishes to change that portion of the purchase policy manual, then we can propose an ordinance to go ahead and add that language in there. But that's your purchase policy manual as it was voted on. And the last time that was updated was, remember? 14?
Well, I'll make a motion right now to put that in there. Even if we get a state bid, I would like for our local vendors to get a chance to match it or beat it.
I would add one more thing real quick. I did text Tony just after the ordinance was passed. He said he did reach out to Offenberg Ford, sent them the specs twice. They never responded, and then responded that never responded to that, but he said there was no money to be made on matching a state bid. And that's just a text message I received. But, I mean,
Well,
do I have a written document that states that? No. But I mean, I think when a car dealership's not necessarily going to be able to give us a written document that says, nah, we're not going to match a state bid, I think they're just going to tell us that. But that's.
Okay, well, I was told by Mr. Feltman that if we brought a
And again,
spec, if we brought a spec in, an actual spec, and said, this is what I want, this is what I need, he'll give you a number. And he wants to match it. Because all these dealerships get a kickback at the end of the year. how many vehicles they get back from the Ford, GM, whoever. So he said he'll match it, and he has up here before, but I'm just asking.
I
Well,
can
maybe
tell
we
you,
could reach out to Modern Auto, make sure they understand that where they can get that information on those bids. And then when we go ahead and put that out, they can certainly go ahead and.
You know, one thing I could do is I could send where the state bid stuff is at, on the, on the MoDOT's, or the Missouri State bid, and send them the link and the location where things are at to the local car dealerships, so they know, so when we do go look for a vehicle, because the specs are already written up, it's just right on there.
they already
I
have.
could do that.
They already know how to access.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I don't know who else gets hit up here, but I get, and I don't blame them, they come and question every time. Well, we didn't even get a chance to look at that.
I can tell you the last car bid we did, the Ford dealer was approached. It's not worth our effort. So, okay.
Well, motion's on the table if anybody wants to back it. If not, we'll just let it die. But I just again, trying to look out for a local vendor.
Chief, do they get a lot of service out of your vehicles?
Service is what they get. They get a big service contract out of our vehicles.
So somebody like Modern, they don't have access to these things?
They do.
They do.
It gets bid out every year, correct? I mean,
It gets, so the state of Missouri will go out to bid on just a half-ton pickup, whatever it is. And that goes out with the, kind of the bare bones specification. And then any car dealership within the state of Missouri can bid on that. So it's a volume-based situation.
So they could have bid on this
They
truck we
definitely
approved
could have bid on that.
Absolutely.
And they also have the availability to look up what the bid was for as well.
a lot of times because they don't even know it's happening, Mark.
Oh, well, but
Well,
Well, either they do the work to find out it's happening or somebody on our staff. Is that correct? Like, are you advocating for us notifying them for is that what the proposal is?
Okay, yeah, if I'm a department head and I have it in my budget, I want it to be that it's not that much work. We only got a couple dealerships here. Go hit them, say, here's the specs, here's what I want. Can you match this? Do you want to match it? Thank you for your time. Okay, gone.
And
That's
we
what
can
I'm
do that legally through our bid process?
And I think what we're saying is right now with the current purchasing manual, it doesn't require to do
Does
that.
not require.
That's what he's saying.
Which is
So I
what-
made a motion.
Yeah, just so we know that.
What it is.
That we have, with that truck, we followed the procedures that were set forth.
I understand it. I always ask though, John, I always ask.
Yeah.
Hey, did we,
Right.
you know,
And I'm sorry I didn't have that earlier, but
all
like I
right.
said, he did send it to me.
thank you.
I think the service contracts, I think Mary got me those numbers for the presentation I did earlier this month. I believe it was like with Modern Auto, over a 2-year window, we did $80-some thousand worth of service. And then I believe the Offenburg was something like 60,000 something. And that's over 2 years.
Right, yeah, I remember those numbers.
I don't want to belabor it, but I still don't understand. Sounds like Mark's saying they don't know anything about these, but it sounds like you're saying,
They don't, let me explain, they don't know that the city is now seeking to go ahead and acquire an F-350 pickup truck or whatever it may be.
Correct.
They are aware at the beginning, whenever the state goes out for their bid.
Which I don't know when that is.
Which I don't know when that is. That's up to them. They would know more information.
They know who
about
has a
that.
state
so
contract.
you're asking our people to go to local dealers and tell them specifically what
To
they're
see if they want to beat the state bid.
Right.
So what-
This is my specs, like I say.
How many dealers?
Are you, well, how many do we have in town?
I don't, 2, 3?
Right.
Well, and you have
I
to
think
be
what we-
specific. If I'm looking for a Ford.
Right, I'm just gonna go to
vehicle,
Ford.
I'm not gonna go to Modern.
Right, so I mean, that's,
I think what we would, probably the best way to do it would be is just take the state bid document that's out there and just literally just go to the dealership that has that same vehicle locally.
well, just
say,
make sure there's a spec, you know, the specs are in there for the vehicle.
Because we're not going to write our specs every single time.
Well, it should have it you should have it on there. I mean, what the chassis is, what this, so they can just,
The bid comes with a certain number of specs, and then you can do add-ons or drops.
I completely understand what Mark's saying, and I get it. I also see Chief's side where we approached Offenburg and said, "Do you want to do this?" and said, "It's not worth our time." For our department head to drive down there and say, "Here's our specs," they got to be able to find that somewhere. We got to be able to give someone at Modern Auto and online when we're going to have a truck.
But they don't even need to drive down there. I mean, hell,
Right. I mean,
fax
that's-
it. They can just fax it to them. There you go. You know,
And maybe
the
that's an
sales
option.
manager.
I don't think we need to go through this again and again. I just think that, I agree with Mark, what you're saying, to give them a chance. And if they don't know, I think that's a cop-out. If they want to sell a vehicle, they can call City Hall and say, please tell me the next time you're sending out a F450 or any kind of Ford vehicle from Offenburg, we'd be happy to look at the bid and try to match it. And if they're not looking for that, or they don't do that much legwork, then they really don't want to sell. That's you know, they got to have some skin in it too, that they want to try to do this. I agree with matching. I want local just as much as you do, but we also can't hand feed them every time we have a bid that they missed out on the state bid. I completely want them to be here, but I guess I'm asking our department not to hand deliver specs every time we have a truck. But hey, we have an email, we have a bid coming up next month. Here's where it's at. If you guys want to take a look, take a look. Can it be that simple? Or am I off base?
I'm just saying that I think what our department heads try to do is they follow the purchase policy manual. They sit there and see that it says that they can hit state bid, and they move on to their next task.
Right.
That's exactly what happens.
So, like I said, if you want them to add part of that task, that's what the motion I understand that Mark is proposing.
Do we do a lot of business with Modern Auto, service-wise?
Yes. We still have some Impalas, so yes. And those are the older ones, so they get quite a bit of service sometimes.
Well, we're switching over to Interceptors.
But since we have more Explorers now, or the police pursuit vehicles, we're getting more service done at Offenburg, so.
I would think that, you know, I don't know for a fact, but I would almost bet you that they make more money off the service than they would off of one vehicle. Maybe.
That's been what's been relayed back to us.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if they're taking 1% on a truck, a F-350 or whatever, 1% of 50,000, you know, and they're making $80,000 a year just on service.
Yeah, I don't want to question Mark's phone calls and who's he's talking to, but I've talked to someone at Modern and they've said that we can't match a state bid ever. We'd like to look at it, but we usually can't match it. We appreciate the service business. So they don't want to jeopardize that either, so.
Okay.
I know they've matched, like I say, Jeff, I think Mr. Quatham's little truck that he had before came from Modern, didn't it, Kevin? They matched that. They matched that, I think. Anyway, I don't want to be a dead horse. I just brought it up.
When I go out for bids and I buy Chevys because they're more durable than Fords for the conditions that they're driving in, Modern Auto gets an opportunity to bid on every bid. They have got one vehicle, which has been the Colorado. That's it. They cannot match the price.
How do you mean they get an opportunity? You email them or inform them? You do already?
We take the state bid and we send them the state bid. We say, we're going out for this vehicle. They
We're already
try to bid
doing it.
against it.
That's
They
what
can't,
Kevin's
they
doing.
can't compete.
That's what Kevin's doing.
That's what Kevin.
That's what I do.
Thank you,
That's what I
Kevin.
think most of them do.
That's what you're.
Thank you, Kevin, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Wayne, what about you all? Do you do that as well?
I don't know that we do it on every vehicle, but I know we do it on a lot of vehicles. I know we're working on one now, and I'm nearly certain we've reached out to the local.
Okay. So we may be already doing it.
Go ahead with the, go ahead, next order of business. Nobody wants to second it? That's be it.
All right.
Put it on record, I put it in there.
Okay, did you have any more comments, Mark? Anything else on your list?
Let me look, Sandy.
All right,
I think that's it.
all right, great. Okay. Does anybody
Sandy,
else
I got
have
one
anything?
thing.
You have some?
This is on the kind of lighter side of things. My daughter got pulled over for an expired plate by one of your officers.
Oh, boy.
But she had a different plate on the front of her car that was not expired. Somebody stole her rear plate and replaced it. And she said that the officer that pulled her over couldn't have been nicer.
I bet he took the stolen plate, though.
Sure would, Franklin County.
That's good.
Our New Haven?
Oh, thank you.
It's funny.
Anyone else? Okay.
City Attorney's Report, public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Wessels?
Aye.
Friedrich? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Belentrop?
Yes.
Pettit?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Obermark?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned to go into executive session. Thank you all. Thank you.